Alright guys, well it's been a while since I made a video, and I'm going to talk about something that I know has has been on every home machinist's mind probably more than once, and that's indexable and carbide tooling. As any of us has obviously done, we have probably purchased some cheap tooling, and it's mediocre in satisfaction. It probably beats your high-speed steel a little bit, but there's just such a limitation to, well, there's a limitation to a lot of things. And I mean, the simple fact is, none of us are probably running high enough speed machines. I think my lathe is, well, my lathe will go up to 8,000, but I think the bearings are only rated for about 2,500, and I'm actually going to change all that to get my torque up and my speed down. But most of our home machines are 2,500 range max, and you're really not getting the benefits that good carbide bits will give you at that speed. However, the cheap Chinese ones are, well, they're just that. I mean, we all know what Chinese tools are at this point, so, and the difference between them. But we can't all afford good good carbide. So I'm gonna give you guys a little explanation of what I've been planning and working on, and I think it'll work for most of you. I think you'll kind of enjoy this and the thought of it, and it'll solve some problems. I mean, the other big problem is there's so many different kinds of tooling out there that, I mean, to buy a good decent tooling bar at 25, 30 bucks plus, and then carbide bits at what, anywhere from 5 to 20 bucks per bit, or per whatever you want to call it. Us home machinists are not running a production shop, and it's not feasible to be spending that kind of money on tooling bits for our own personal pleasure. I mean, it's fun to fantasize about, but let's keep it practical, right? So let's I'm gonna go through a little bit of, rearrange everything. And sorry guys, I've actually been expanding the shop, so haven't been online for a while, haven't posted any videos, not like I got a large group of followers anyway. So this is, if I was to buy these, and these are new, well, the majority of these ones are new, but I got these on a deal from a guy who's retiring as a machinist, and these bits are $11 a piece new. Not the black ones, but the titanium nitrate coated ones. And so there's $286 worth of bits in there new. And granted, that many bits would probably last me the next 5 to 10 years if, I take care of them. And but I mean, in all reality, there's only one shape there. There's only one profile, same radius, and regardless of whether it's carbide or high-speed steel, there is a general characteristic to the performance of cutting bits through the geometry of how they're cut. A lot of the high-speed steel and stuff are raked bits. Every I don't know what you'd call it, sharpening chart, I guess. It talks about the rake, and it's, these bits are actually a zero rake. And in all reality, if you're cutting on center, especially if you only have a surface this big and then you have a little bit of a rake below it, but either way, if you're cutting on center, especially on a lathe, it's going to be peeling a chip right there, and these have a chip breaker. So if you're peeling a chip and breaking it off, it's not going to matter what's below here, because by the time it peels off, it's going to be, the diameter is going to be rounding back down, and there's going to be a clearance gap. High-speed steel is a little bit different. I mean, you have to cut it a lot slower, and there's not a lot of people don't put chip brakes on high-speed steel, so you're not making little chips. You're usually getting quite a bit bigger chips. So there's a good reason why carbide's better, but they all have their purposes either way. So, I mean, let's say even 3 of these at $11 a piece, that's 33 bits, and then you have to have a tool holder for it, and more than likely you're going to have several different tool holders for you know, your different angles, cut into a shoulder, negative rakes, positive rakes, all that fun crap. So I mean, you're looking at 5 tool holders, and if you guys have priced the tool holders for that size bit, even the Chinese ones, you're looking at $50 for a set of tool holders, and you only have one option of cutting profile. Well, besides the various angles of the tool holders, and then also the angles you can switch off to with your sorry guys, it's late as always, with your tool post. So, and you know, like I said, the various profiles of tool holders. And these are actually all good American made tool holders, but I did have to modify, you know, the center one, because these ones are made for a 7-degree rake, so I had to take a file to it and clean it out. Okay, so at 200 and whatever dollars for new bits, it's not feasible. I actually got these for like $3 a piece, so I think I paid $86 for this package of bits. Now, after buying these and using them a little bit, you know, I do like carbide. I don't like the price. So here's what I'm going to do, or here's what I did. Now, this is essentially new $280 worth of bits. This and this. Uh-oh, getting caught on my crap. Is about $150 worth of bits. So, I mean, guarantee, okay, these ones are busted up. And this was actually listed as carbide scrap, and this is the worst of the worst of what was in there. Okay, so that's a busted coolant through drill bit, and I can still do something with that. I can put it on my grinder, and I can make that into a spotting drill. I can cut it down shorter. I can make it into a rose cutter. And I'm going to make my own tool cutter. I mean, there's really not that much to them if you start looking at them. And after all, we're getting in this for learning. We're not doing it, you know, we're not professional machinists. I'm sure none of us have, okay, some of us might have outside work, but the majority of us are doing this just because it's something we want to do. We want to learn about it. And, you know, to learn about machining, the first step is to learn about the tooling. And that is what we're teaching ourselves to be, are tool makers. So why are we going to go spend several $100s on somebody else's tool? That makes absolutely no sense. There's a guy online named Chris. I don't know his last name. He's under ClickSpring on YouTube. If you haven't checked him out, check him out. He's a very smart guy. No BS. He gets to the point. I love his videos. He does beautiful work. He's a clock maker. I have no interest in making clocks, but I'm not going to limit my learning when it comes to machining to just clock making, or, you know, to just what I want to learn. I'm going to expand and learn about every aspect of machining, whether it's something I don't want to know about or something I do, because it's all going to come together sometime down the road. Now, these are actually composite bits, and you can pretty much use them for anything. I mean, they're carbide, but if you look up this brand and you look up this bit, that's a $500 bit, dang near. I think they're between $300 and $500 for a bit that size, that kind. And the worst thing with this one is it's got a little chip out right there. So once I build a tool grinder, I can easily redo that end, and I got an amazing bit right there. And I guess these work equally good in wood, and this was actually the first one I got, and it's got the same issue. And you know, those two angles, or three angles I should say, will be extremely easy to put on another bit. Now, I mean, some of these bits are, you know, that's like dang near brand new, and this was under scrap, and I'll tell you here in a little bit who the guy was that I got it from. And you guys could probably look him up, tell him I sent you, tell him you want the good stuff, and you know, get yourself some carbide and start playing with it. We'll go over some more of that, but yeah, all this, you know, came from the same guy. And these are what I got today. These were actually a little bit cheaper, and they're not as nice as the other ones were, but they're still, you know, they're still pretty good bits. And this whole this whole thing right here, get you guys in focus, are all bits that I find usable in some way. Either they got good ends on them, they got good flutes, so I can do side cutting with them at least. So these are all usable bits in some manner or another. These ones are pretty much my play carbide. You know, they're what I'm going to make D-bits out of, and reamers, and whatever else when I get where I'm going and get my tool grinder made. Now this is what I really want to talk about, carbide inserts. You know, anybody who's looked into carbide inserts has at least done some kind of research, and they said, okay, I have no idea what the hell I want, what the hell I need. So for 150 bucks, and unfortunately they didn't come all nice and separated like so. But as you can see, I have, and granted, all these edges aren't good. You know, there's going to be crap. Well, I wouldn't call it crap, and I'll explain that here in a moment. But I have all these different bits. And so now I can make my own tool holders. I don't need nothing real great, just something nice and solid. And I can experiment, and I can see what I like and what I don't like before I go out and spend hundreds of dollars on somebody else's tool holders. I think y'all understand exactly what I'm saying, and it's really, sorry, those are screws. It's really not that difficult to make a holder that'll hold something solid. And the other thing is, these ones that are, you know, the ones that are chipped up and beat up and whatever, there's a few ways to deal with carbide. I mean, this stuff is hard, but one of the ways to do it, and it's not very expensive, is a simple silicone carbide wheel. A few clever jigs for holding these in various positions, and you can pretty much resharpen them. And if you're making your own tool holders, you don't have to worry about them fitting into the tool holder perfectly, because you can make a tool holder easy enough per whatever piece of carbide you're using. And I guarantee you, if you think it through for a little while, you can make a universal tool holder that will hold numerous carbide inserts by, you know, I don't know, maybe have a square on it with different profiles, so you just have to rotate it to match a profile. I mean, some of these will have to have a tool holder made specifically for them, but a lot of the ones with, you know, square or triangle edges, you can easily make some kind of universal tool holder that's going to hold several different types of carbide bits. You know, the other thing, like these ones, say you need a scraper and you don't want to go out and spend the price it costs for a scraper, you can easily braze something like that, or, you know, something like that. Probably something like that. I mean, you don't even have to braze. You could make a mechanical means of holding it. You know, like these. You could easily make a mechanical means of holding that and make one of these into a scraper blade and save yourself who knows how many dollars doing so. Now, you might say, I only have a little Grizzly 9x22. It holds, well, it says the tool posts that I have for it hold a max of a 1/2 inch, and that thing is going to go on a way bigger tool post holder than a 1/2 inch. That's probably for 3/4 inch tool post, or indexable tool. But like I said, if you make your own, you can adapt this easily to fit on your tool post holder. And the size of the bit, especially if you have a quick change with an adjustable height, is not going to matter how big that piece of carbide is. I mean, yeah, you're not going to get the full benefit out of it because you're not going to be able to cut 1/4 of a way into that with a small lathe, but you can still use the tip of that just fine. And plus, with something like that, you know how many different profiles I could put on that with a grinder and make custom bits? And I mean, if you follow the general shape of cutting tool geometry that you find on the charts, and the other thing is, by getting, this is actually my my scramble. This is a bunch of broken drill bit tips, and may never get used for nothing. Might, who knows? It's worth holding on to. Beats cutting up a good bit to get the profile I want. But, you know, I can still use every one of these bits on my lathe by adapting a holder that'll fit it. So that's that plus all them end mills is, it was about 150 bucks from the guy I went to. He's on eBay. His name is or his store's name is What a Deal From Us, and it's not one word. I believe it's got dashes in between. So now I have all these profiles, and granted, you know, a percentage of the edges might be messed up, but I don't need the whole edge. You know, I don't need the whole indexable tool to find out if I like it. I just need 1 or 2 good cutting spots. And then if I like that kind, maybe I'll spend the money and buy a decent set. Maybe I'll make my own tool holder and just buy some more inserts that size. You know, if you do modify them, all of these, especially the good ones, have information on them. So if you do modify these, make sure that you only have, say, 1 bit, you modify it to do something, make sure you have the information off of it in case you liked it, so that way you're not trying to remember. You know, write it down, make notes, say I like this one, I don't like this one, and process of elimination. And then the top of that, if you do find some you like, you can buy some you like, but you'll always have a stash for when you have that special job that's going to require one weird profile, and you're not going to have to grind a piece of high-speed steel for it and hope that that piece of high-speed steel lasts, because if you do it with carbide and you do it right, you're going to make it through that job, if it's not a great big job anyway. So that is my theory on carbide. Screw what all the little things mean. Screw reading hundreds and hundreds of pages. The only way you're really going to find out what you like is to get carbide and put it in your machine. Like I said, you know, us home hobbyists, we will never get the benefit of carbide because we're not running 10,000 RPM machines. But we will get all kinds of other benefits. You know, some of these I'm going to make some fly cutters and all kinds of other things And I mean, you know how long that bit would last on a fly cutter? And I do mostly soft metals, aluminum, brass, mild steel. So carbide, if I take care of it and I don't ram it in there, it will go good. So this guy on eBay, his name's Harold. My name's Sean, for all you guys that don't know that. But eBay, I find, is a wonderful place to get carbide. And, you know, I have bought some new, but I just don't see the benefit of buying new bits. I mean, you don't want to buy them so used that they're no good, and that's why I'm recommending Harold. This is actually one I bought from him. This is a used bit. You could be like me. You could look at this for quite a while and not be able to see any wear on it. And this thing is still, I mean, it's sharp. It's sharp enough I get nervous when I'm touching it. So that is my introduction to carbide for the home machinist. Oh no, it's not. Now, say that you do buy some used carbide and you don't have a universal tool cutter to sharpen it. Besides having an aluminum oxide, a silicone carbide wheel, which are, you know, you can pick one up for pretty cheap. My damn battery's gonna die. The other thing is diamond wheels. You can pick a Chinese one up for pretty cheap. And the other thing is good old Dremel tool. We got diamond bits. We got silicone carbide bits. These are aluminum oxide. I actually use my belt sander with an aluminum oxide to like polish my lathe bits after I'm done, or hone them a little bit, and it works pretty good. You know, to be sharpening really fancy stuff or fixing end mills, you're going to need a universal tool grinder of some kind, or a surface grinder with grinding jigs. But to just, I just had a brain fart. But anyway, you know, if you want to try carbide, I would say go that route. The indexable ones are the way to go. If you want to buy used end mills, you can do that as well. Like I said, if you don't have a means of sharpening them, set them aside. You know, customize them, make special bits. You know, a lot of people would probably look at this, and I think, I don't know where Harold gets his exactly. I mean, he apparently has quite a bit of this stuff, and he sells it for, well, when I bought it, it was about $8.75 a pound, and there's, you know, I bought 150 bucks worth. He actually hooked me up. I think I got 17 pounds here for 150 bucks, and that includes shipping. So, I mean, you guys, that's just a solid piece of carbide. You can make this into a boring bar, and you don't have to grind, you know, the whole thing down, as in, I don't even think I have one over here, but as in a, you know, a standard boring bar, especially a carbide one, oftentimes, and it would be uncaught, or it wouldn't be efficient for the home machinist to, you know, take a solid piece of carbide as such and grind it down into a boring bar. The other thing you can do with indexable bits is you can braze them onto another piece of steel. But say if you want to make this into a boring bar, and as opposed to grinding the whole thing down, make yourself another, you know, another metal tool holder, and then drill it in at a little bit of an angle, and then you just have to deal with, you know, the end of it, as opposed to thinning out the whole part, all depending on the project, of course. So some things to chew on. That's my my ode to carbide for the poor man. You know, if I was to buy all these bits brand new, there would be thousands of dollars worth of bits here, and I'd rather buy them used. Either make myself a tool grinder, I don't know how well it'll turn out, or If it doesn't turn out good, then I guess I'll pony up some cash and buy a used one and get it good and functional, and I'll resharpen these bits myself, and then I'll have carbide and carbide and carbide for days. And sounds a lot better to add another tool to my shop and buy my bits cheap and do a little extra work than spend, you know, as in these ones, $300, $400, $500 on an Onsrud. And look this up. I mean, this will blow your mind that they even sell bits for that much. But look up Onsrud online, and I think the cheapest bit on their website was about 80 bucks. So check that out. It'll kind of blow your mind. It blew my mind. I'm like, how can they get away with selling a bit for 80 bucks? I mean, who the hell would buy that? But apparently somebody buys it. But anyway, what I was saying about Harold is I don't know where he gets these bits. A lot of them are in pretty good shape. I think he may get them from a large manufacturer, and just you know, they run CNC machines, run them for a day, run them for a couple of hours, and then toss them in a used bin and send them on down the road. As you and me as home shop machinists, we do not have that kind of luxury, and we do not make that kind of money. So I find this as a viable alternative to increase my inventory of tooling, learn more about tooling, and have fun while I'm doing it. Learn something new. So, you know what? Screw reading. Buy some cheap bits, get in the shop, get it done. Anyway, battery's going to die. I obviously got work to do. Later.